Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to welcome you to FM Kirby campus, the headquarters of the Intercollegiate Studies Institute. That title, headquarters, sounds impressive. But with this being our inaugural homecoming weekend, and all of us being alumni, supporters, and friends of this great organization, I am simply excited to welcome you home. For those of you returning, or for those of you on your maiden visit, this is the ultimate safe space. A place where ideas and friendship come together and lives are changed forever. So welcome home. Good evening, my name is Paul Ryan. I'm the Vice President of Operations here at ISI and the project manager on the Linda L. Bean Conference Center. This is a moment we've been all waiting for. I'm grateful to have so many of you here for this historic occasion. To start the proceedings, we're going to begin with our invocation and national anthem. Leading us in prayer is Timothy Houseel, law partner at Wilmington's Young Conaway, and who together with his wife Carol have been longtime friends and supporters of ISI. Tim has been a powerhouse promoter of ISI in the local community and across the region. Rumor has it that he can bilocate because he's often found at multiple events with seemingly conflicting schedules. Thank you, Tim, for that ongoing enthusiasm and commitment, and especially to you and Carol for your support of this evening. Our national anthem will be sung by one of our own. Upon graduation from the music program at Alabama's famed Jacksonville State University, where she was also an ISI Honors Scholar, she crossed the Mason-Dixon line to join the ISI team in 2002. She held that post until being promoted to a higher calling as the mother and educator to a growing family. Leading us in our nation's anthem is my wife, Lindsay Ryan. If you are not already doing so, please stand so that we may honor God and country.
Good evening. Before I offer up an invocation, I want to commend to you the book of Nehemiah, which is a fantastic book for all the architects and builders in the room already know. But Nehemiah is about rebuilding the walls around Jerusalem, and there are some just really inspiring passages. Nehemiah overcame all kinds of obstacles, and the people of Israel came over all kinds of obstacles to rebuild. They had to protect themselves. They had to find the resources. They had to come back from captivity. They had to fight against the skeptics to rebuild the wall. And here's just a couple verses. Nehemiah 2:17-20. Then I said to them, you see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. I also told them about the gracious hand of my God on me and what the king has said to me. They replied, let us start rebuilding. So they began this good work. And in the face of skeptics, he said, the God of heaven will give us success. We, his servants, will start rebuilding. And they rebuilt that wall in 52 days. Now, I know we have some really good contractors here. I don't think we're going to get the Linda Bean Center built in 52 days. But afterwards, they did this. They did exactly what we're going to do after the groundbreaking. Nehemiah said, go and enjoy choice food and sweet drinks, and send some to those who have nothing prepared. This day is holy to our Lord. Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength. Please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we acknowledge your presence, and we ask for your blessings on this land and on this building. We thank you for the sacrificial gifts that people have given to build this building, including Linda Bean and her sister Diana. We ask that you prepare the hearts of students that will come here to grapple with the most important ideas and concepts and the meaning of life. We ask that you bless and prepare the professors from academics and authors who will come here and pose questions and expand the minds of young people here. May all the dialogue that takes place here be pleasing and honoring to you. And we ask that you draw people to Wilmington to use this building for the next generations, so that those generations can be equipped to serve and be educated for liberty. We thank you that we live in a country where we can celebrate these freedoms, that we can teach these freedoms. And I'm going to exercise my personal religious liberty and ask for these things in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Tim and Lindsay. Please be seated. In 1953, writer Frank Chodorov founded in Washington, D.C., an organization with William F. Buckley as its first president. This organization was dedicated to fighting the rampant socialism that was spreading like wildfire on America's campuses. By the 1970s, then-President E. Victor Million had brought this organization to Philadelphia, where it was a thriving national entity with thousands of student members with opportunities such as our Weaver Fellowship program available to them. In the mid-1990s, under the leadership of T. Kenneth Cribb, ISI found its permanent home in the Brandywine Valley when it established FM Kirby campus, and I understand this was much to the chagrin of our neighbor, our current president, Joe Biden, I'm told. This evening, you're all part of this history now. This evening, we begin to write the next chapter in the history of ISI and in this place as we launch into an ambitious project with the goal of ISI's educational programming coming to Kirby campus year-round. Important events like student conferences, important events like our homecoming weekend. Leading us into this next chapter is our current president, John Burtka, who will offer a few remarks.
Thank you so much, Paul. It is true that this project would not be happening today without Paul's forbearance and patience and persistence. So thank you so much. Thank you, Tim, for the invocation. It's important on momentous occasions like these that we ask God's blessing on the work of our hands. And also thank you, Lindsay. It's such an honor to have one of ISI's very own lead us in the national anthem. So today has been a long time coming for us at ISI. The dream for this place began 8 years ago. It was a dream to build a permanent home for the permanent things, a place where ISI could put down roots. Our student program officers travel the campus, crisscrossing hundreds, if not thousands of campuses a year. But we needed a place where we could actually welcome students from all over the country right here. To be our very own university, where we could introduce them to the great books, where they could renew their love of our country, its history, their faith in God, and their friendship with each other. And this project met the perfect benefactor in Linda Bean, who truly made this vision a reality. And there are two things about Linda that actually make her the perfect person to support this project. First, she absolutely loves our country and its history. We went up to visit her several weeks ago, and she had a poster, and I believe it was 19 pilgrims on the Mayflower were actually direct relatives of Linda. So she goes all the way back to the beginning, and so she has a passion for sharing that history with young people, and she also loves the Brandywine Valley, especially the distinctive tradition of American art that developed here with the Piles and the Wyeths. So it's truly the perfect place to merge these two loves in one. It's also the perfect place to make this vision a reality for another reason. There's a historic precedent for doing this kind of activity here in the Brandywine Valley, and I'm going to mention two of them to you tonight. The first one goes back to our founding fathers. Before there was a September 11th, 2001, a day that would live in infamy, there was a September 11th, 1777. And that is when the Patriots lost to the British the Battle of the Brandywine, which was the largest battle of the War for Independence, fought a few miles up the road in Chad's Ford. And at the end of that battle, George Washington escaped, and he had to make a long and lonely march from the Westchester area to Wilmington that night. And one wonders one can imagine what might have been going through Washington's mind. He probably felt like he disappointed his men on the field of battle. He was worried about the British who would continue on and take Philadelphia, the capital city. He was perhaps worried for his own life and that of his family, and also worried that the experiment in liberty, which had begun just 1 year before in Philadelphia, might be squashed out before it could even really get off the ground. And talking to many of ISI supporters and alums, I can imagine the way that Washington felt about the country might be the way that some of you are feeling now when you think of the state of the country, wondering whether or not the cause of liberty will prevail to the next generation. But we're here tonight to tell you to take hope, to tell you that just like Washington was defeated and dejected, marching that night, perhaps on his darkest hour, right here, probably a couple miles from this place, to regroup, to restore, rebuild, and develop a strategy. That is exactly what we're going to be doing here with the young students and the alumni and the professors that will come through the doors of the Linda Bean Center. And Washington would have a long winter ahead of him at Valley Forge. It wasn't a rosy time. It wouldn't get better immediately, but he would endure that winter. And we might have a long winter to come, but I'm confident we'll come out the other side and win just like Washington did in the Battle of Yorktown. A number of founding fathers also fought on the field of battle. You had Alexander Hamilton, John Marshall, and the Marquis de Lafayette, who came over. He was actually wounded in the battle, and he returned 50 years later, approximately, in 1825, and a dinner was held in his honor in Westchester. And during the dinner, there was a botanist by the name of Darlington, and he proposed a toast. And the toast said, "To the fields of the Brandywine, irrigated with the blood of the Revolutionary Patriots, the teeming crop must ever be independent free men." And so that's really the vision we have here at ISI. May the sacrifice that our founding fathers made in this place on the fields of the Brandywine be the seed of a new crop of American leaders cultivated and tended by ISI. There's one other historical precedent that I'd like to mention. The DuPont family and their legacy and the culture that they brought with them from France really made this place what it is. And the DuPont family came over at the invitation of Thomas Jefferson. Alexander Hamilton drew up the contract for the land that they owned, and they embodied what one local historian calls the Brandywine Paradox. And I believe this paradox is an old and very American fusionism that is relevant for conservatives today. And the paradox is this. On one side of the Brandywine, you had industry and innovation, economic growth. You had the powder mills, the flour mills, entrepreneurship, creativity, all the things you normally associate sort of with the American spirit, the American dream, and industry. But as you worked your way up the Brandywine, you had culture, conservation, conservatism, a love of beauty and art, and the higher things. And they actually held these two things in tension and infused this place with that ethos. And that is really the animating intellectual, moral, cultural spirit that we're trying to inculcate in the young leaders that come to learn in this place. One more tidbit from history, and this is less edifying and more charming. F. Scott Fitzgerald, after spending most of his money in profligate living out in LA from the proceeds from The Great Gatsby, actually came here to Wilmington to spend 2 years. He lived in a mansion with Zelda on the river. And he had a lot of parties. Hemingway actually came down and partied with them. They had a lot of bands and a lot of celebrations. And he wrote the book, Tender is the Night, while he was here. And so we actually have a vermouth tonight made by some of our dear friends, ISI Weaver Fellow, actually, Enrique Payares, named Tender is the Night, that you can take a sip of and celebrate the history in this place. We also will have a 12-piece jazz band in the Rose Garden, as well as ISI custom labeled cigars that are Brandywine Valley tobacco. So those are to be enjoyed in the front of the building and not in the back. So on that note, I'm going to grab my glass of champagne and propose a toast. If you'd raise your glass. Thank you, Linda. With God's help, we will honor your legacy in this place and raise up a new generation of American leaders from the Valley of the Brandywine for a lifetime of liberty and public virtue. May they go on to make Washington and Lafayette proud. You're here. All right.
It's okay. You can take a couple of sips. It's warm. Thank you, Johnny. At this time, I'd like to welcome our board vice chairwoman, benefactress and friend, Linda Bean, to share her vision for the Linda L. Bean Conference Center. Linda?
Thank you, Paul, and thank you all. It's such a privilege to be here with you and to have you come from so far, many of you, tonight. I sat through some very interesting sessions today. We've had some delightful speakers, really heavy thinkers on wokeism. For one, I was extremely interested in that, and I can tell you, as a Mayflower descendant, and it is true, I have 19. My 4 grandparents all go back. I spent a COVID year doing the research and was thrilled. Even the first mate of the Mayflower is my ancestor, John Clark. So if they come after the Pilgrim Monument, those 1619ers, I'm going to rally all of our descendants for one, and I hope you'll follow them, because I think they say we have a third of the country descends from the Mayflower. So it's been an inspirational weekend with the homecoming, which is delightful, a first. I hope we can continue that here and grow our numbers. Our architect, Michael Imber, and his associates, Alice Arnn, who is Larry Arnn of Hillsdale's daughter, is one of the architectural team here. And Mac White, they have done a very interesting job to design a building which looks bigger actually on the drawing because it's an aerial view, a conception of it. If you are driving into the driveway, however, you're not going to see the building in the back. You're not going to see that enormous building, but it is very big, and we'll get the whole feeling of it by being back here toward the river. And we're so lucky to be on the Brandywine. The basin out here has been exposed now. We can actually see the water, thanks to a tornado recently that took a great many trees. The Public Works Department hasn't been by to take down the wood yet. I went by today, and I was shocked that they hadn't taken care of it yet. But anyway, we're privileged to see that from here. I want to thank all of you who have been leaders here. The love and leadership at ISI has been tremendous. Chris Long is the person who got me involved. Those of you who know Chris. Charlie Copeland. Paul Rame has been fantastic on all the land and the development issues, fighting off the I guess you call it the Del Dot here. They wanted to take some of our property by eminent domain, and Charlie Copeland virtually stood on the wrecking ball to prevent that from happening. Paul has given me a great tour in the last month around the 20 acres here. And what we have is a horticultural and silvicultural arena to talk about from the previous owners who were planting trees and shrubs that are very wonderful for those of you who are interested in that part of the property. Tom Lynch and our board have been wonderful and encouraging. Johnny Burka and his very, very fine staff have pushed us along, and we're now ready to break ground tonight. Finally, it's a great time. We have a rose garden that I hope you'll be able to take a look at. It's part of the original property. The family started it, but it kind of went to seed, like a lot of properties. And so we are restoring that now, and we hope to have one of you generously name that property, if you know what that means. Another interesting thing that's happening, we're going to, I talked with my forester in Maine. In Maine, where I was born and have always lived, we have a lot of woodland, and when the big companies broke up in Maine a few decades ago, those properties, those timberlands became available in manageable numbers, and some of us have invested in those. So from Harmony, Maine, we're going to bring the oak that will create this building. We're going to start harvesting it in 3 weeks in Harmony, Maine, and we hope to have the Kennebec Lumber Company dry kiln the lumber so that it will be ready for construction. I'm thrilled that we'll bring part of Maine here to Delaware to unite this whole feeling that I have as a Mainer to my feelings for both Delaware and Chester County, Pennsylvania, where I'm also privileged to be on the board of the Brandywine Conservancy and River Museum. And we have friends from there here tonight, too. Jack Hines and his wife, Marilyn, are among them from our board over there, and he heads our conservation effort there. And there's so many of you that I just want to thank for coming. It's just been a thrill. So we have these relationships in art and culture, in history, in freedom, liberty. I go back a few ways in my activities, but I think the future gathering here we can be in the lead. The lead is what we want to take right now in a new period of American enlightenment. And I leave you tonight with the words of our earlier leader, Benjamin Rush, who said, he was of Philadelphia, as you may know. He was active in the Sons of Liberty. He was a delegate to the Constitutional Convention. And while we've mentioned a lot of our other wonderful leaders, George Washington and others, I do want to mention Benjamin Rush. He said, you can't have liberty without virtue. And so my parting words tonight in thanking you are to go forth and be virtuous, help us out, and be a friend to ISI to help us grow in this leadership. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda, for your thoughtful words and for your trust and support. While this evening's groundbreaking ceremony ushers in the commencement of construction, it is by no means the beginning of the project. It's been a fascinating trip to reach this point, and we've made many friends along the way. We made some enemies, too, as Linda mentioned. Down in Dover, we taught them a little bit about civics and the law, and gladly they turned and went the other direction and left us intact. But our journey's been fruitful, not only because of the important vision and the leadership of people like Linda and Johnny, but also through the efforts of those who are joining us this evening to break ground. With Linda, Johnny, and Thomas Lynch, our board chairman, I'm pleased to have the following individuals here tonight. Wendy Stabler is partner with the Wilmington offices of Saul, Ewing, Arnstein, and Lair. I will just say that when the going got tough, and we were fighting some of those early legal battles, whether it was variances or reclassification of the zoning, Wendy, with her political savvy and her knowledge of the law, was able to make things happen in Dover and in Newcastle, and has brought us, it was the genesis for helping to bring us here today. Like Wendy, Carol Ohm is one of the giants upon whose shoulders the early days of this project rests. As our civil engineer and representative before the daily bureaucracy of county and state officials, Carol helped us navigate the obstacles, and after 8 years on the project, she still takes all the challenges that I send her way on a daily basis with a smile, just like that. Dave Vandergraff, representing our builder, Wolson Construction, is no stranger to Kirby campus. Back when ISI first came to Kirby campus in the mid-1990s, Dave was on that team who did the restoration and renovation work here. So we're excited not only to have his knowledge and history of the property, but also his wisdom and knowledge of governing these wildly fluctuating construction material costs that we've been suffering through this year. So we're counting on Dave to help us meet our September 2022 completion deadline on time, on budget, and on mission. So you got a lot resting on your shoulders, Dave. Last but not least is our architect, Alice Arnn, here representing her colleagues, Mac White and Michael Imber of Michael G. Imber Associates from the firm in Austin, Texas. Together, they've been the inspiration behind the designs you see before you, both here on the sign outside, in the literature, and in the displays inside Kirby Hall. One thing I do want to draw your attention to, if you haven't seen it already, but here marked out on the ground in the orange flagging paint, as well as through the markers on the periphery of the property, we're actually inside the future Linda L. Bean Conference Center, where you may be sitting or standing. So you have sort of an appreciation for the intelligent approach that the Imber team took when siting this building and taking in advantage of the beautiful views that Mother Nature has now made even more beautiful, thanks to that tornado. And so we're grateful to Alice and Mac and the rest of the Imber team for your thoughtful approach. At this time, I'd like to ask each of you to approach to receive your ceremonial headgear and your equipment and head over to the pile of sand before us. So they're matched with your names. You were all waiting to see Johnny Burtka get behind this piece of equipment, weren't you? Well, later tonight, but I do have to... Linda, Thomas, Johnny, Wendy, Carol, Dave, and Alice, thank you for sending us forward this evening with the official start of the construction phase of the Linda L. Bean Conference Center. So in addition to these seven launching us into the building phase by pitching some sand, we are also inviting each of you to play a part in this evening and in the conference center's future. Situated just off the main bar is a beautiful beam, I'm told. It's described as beautiful. That you are invited to sign with your name and an inspirational message. And we're taking that beam and incorporating it into the structure of the Bean Conference Center. And hopefully, when you join us in September of 2022 for the adventurous among you, we can take you and show you where your part of the building has been incorporated. And so, as the evening progresses, there are markers up at the beam And I invite you to join the history that is being made today by inscribing your name and a quote or something that's meaningful to you about today. I just want to add a special thanks to Wolson Construction for making the beautiful beam available to us, but then also providing the static elements that we're seeing here this evening. As we conclude the groundbreaking ceremony, I have several housekeeping items to share, and Claire is keeping me on track to make sure each of these things is mentioned. The evening's not over. In fact, it's just beginning. And as Johnny mentioned, we have dinner with dancing immediately following. And dinner is going to be served buffet style. First come, first serve. No, I'm joking. There's enough for all of us. But you may sit wherever you may be most comfortable, whether that's outside in the tents or in the open air, or of course inside Kirby Hall. And beginning at 7 o'clock and then repeating at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, yours truly will be leading tours through Kirby Hall to talk a little bit about ISI's time here, but then also some of the history that preceded our arrival. We will meet in the room where you picked up food earlier on today. And if you want to know where it all happens and see the magic, here's your chance to get a tour. The shuttle buses will have been running, but they will be available for anyone. They'll run a regular circuit if you need to make your way back to the hotels. You will meet the shuttle in the forecourt area out here to the front of the building. Maybe while you're there waiting for the shuttle, you can partake in one of those famous ISI cigars that Johnny mentioned earlier on. Again, just a reminder that those cigars are to be enjoyed while taking in the beautiful view of Hoops Reservoir out here, not to be enjoyed elsewhere on the property. Thanks very much on behalf of our cleaning staff and the fire marshal. We have an ISI campus store set up inside Kirby Hall for you to make swag or publications purchases, and I'm confident my operations associates will be more than happy to assist you. And that concludes the housekeeping items. As I mentioned, we look forward to having you all back at the dedication for the Linda L. Bean Conference Center in September 2022. Thank you very much for your time this evening, and may God bless ISI.